Nearly 5,000 years ago, someone pressed a reed into wet clay and wrote down a story. The oldest story we have. It is about a king who had everything except a way to keep it. His name was Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, the greatest city on earth. 2/3 God and 1/3 man, he raised walls that touched the clouds and a temple that touched the heavens. And he was, by every account that survives, a magnificent tyrant. His people prayed for rescue. When he wanted a thing, he took it. Every bride on her wedding night, every son for his wars. The gods heard them. From a pinch of clay they made an answer. Enkidu, a wild man, huge as a storm, who ran with gazelles and drank at waterholes beside the lions. Not a rescuer, a rival. A temple woman named Shamhat was sent to tame him. 7 days with her, and the animals fled from Enkidu forever. She taught him bread, beer, and clothing. He had lost the wilderness and gained a question. Who is this king everyone fears? They met in a doorway in Uruk, and they fought, through streets, through walls, shaking the city like an earthquake. When it ended, neither man had won. Gilgamesh had met the only creature on earth as strong as himself. They looked at each other and started laughing. It was the beginning of history's first friendship. A king with a brother now needed a legend. Gilgamesh chose the deed every Sumerian knew was suicide: to walk to the cedar forest at the edge of the world and cut its sacred trees, guarded by Humbaba, a monster whose voice was the flood. No one had ever returned from that forest. They found him. 7 auras of terror, a face like coiled intestines, breath of fire. Enkidu froze. Gilgamesh charged. Together they brought the giant down, and when Humbaba begged for his life, they took his head instead. The gods were watching. And they remembered. Back in Uruk, the goddess Ishtar herself looked down at the victorious king and proposed marriage. Gilgamesh laughed in her face. He listed her former lovers, and what ruin came to every one of them. No one refuses a goddess, not without a price. Ishtar's revenge fell from the sky. The bull of heaven, whose every snort split the earth and swallowed men by hundreds. The 2 friends killed it before sunset. That was one insult too many. That night, the great gods met in council. For Humbaba, for the bull, someone had to die. Not the king, the wild man. Enkidu woke from the dream shaking and told his friend, "The gods have chosen me." Shamash, god of the sun, argued for the heroes. He lost. There was no battle, just 12 days of fever. The man who once outran gazelles died in a bed, cursing the door he could not fight. Gilgamesh refused to bury him. For 6 days and 7 nights he sat by the body, until a worm fell from Enkidu's nose. Then the strongest man alive understood what strength cannot fix. His friend was gone, and one day, so was he. Death had stopped being something that happened to other people. He gave him a king's funeral, a statue of pure gold, and all of Uruk commanded to weep for the wild man who had been his equal. It was not enough. It changed nothing. Enkidu was still dead, and Gilgamesh was still mortal. He threw away the crown, dressed in lion skins, and walked out of his own story into the wilderness, hunting the one man who had beaten death. Utnapishtim, survivor of the great flood, keeper of the secret of immortality. The king of the greatest city on earth now ate raw meat and dug wells in the sand. At the mountains where the sun sets, scorpion beings guarded a tunnel of absolute darkness. 12 hours of running, racing the sunrise that would burn him alive. He came out the other side of the world. There, by a strange sea, a tavern keeper named Cedar gave him the oldest advice ever written. You will not find the life you seek. Fill your belly. Dance. Love your child. Let your wife delight in you. This, too, is the task of mankind. It is the closest thing the ancient world ever wrote to the meaning of life. He refused. With the ferryman Urshanabi, he crossed the waters of death where one drop meant dying, poling the boat with 120 poles, each used once and dropped. On the far shore waited the Immortal. On that far shore lived a man who did not age, Utnapishtim, the faraway. He looked at the exhausted king, skin ruined by sun and grief, and asked the question that ended the journey. Why do you chase what no one has ever caught? Utnapishtim told him the truth. Immortality was not a prize, it was an accident. Once the gods decided to drown the world. One god broke ranks and whispered a warning. Build a boat, load it with every living thing. The flood killed everyone else. The gods wept and made the survivor immortal, once and never again. Gilgamesh had crossed the world for a secret that could not be repeated. Can you conquer death? Asked the old man. If you cannot conquer sleep, stay awake 7 days. Gilgamesh sat down and slept instantly, for a week. He had failed before he began. As a parting gift, one secret. At the bottom of the sea grows a thorned plant that returns youth to the old. Gilgamesh tied stones to his feet, sank into the abyss, and tore it free with bleeding hands. He carried eternal youth home in his hands. Then he stopped to bathe in a cool pool. A snake smelled the plant and ate it. Gilgamesh sat down and wept. Then he did the only thing left. He went home. And approaching Uruk, he saw them, his walls, huge burnt brick, built to outlast their builder. Climb them, he told the ferryman. Study them. This is what remains. Not his body, his work. He was right. The king became a story, the story became clay, and the clay was buried under a dead empire for 2,500 years, until 1872, when a man in the British Museum read the flood tablet, and they say began tearing off his clothes with excitement. His name was George Smith, a self-taught engraver who deciphered what no professor could. Gilgamesh asked for eternal life. The gods said no. And yet you have just heard his name 5,000 years after his death. Perhaps the tavern keeper was wrong. There is an immortality, and he found it.